brother was coming over as well, and I was just so fucking anxious. So anxious because the anticipation for doing this was so big, and I'd worked so hard for this. You know, you've got two types of people, right? You can run a marathon or you can fucking train for a marathon. And I say that to all of my clients. I'm like, it doesn't matter what happens on the day. You're one of those people that actually train for a marathon. You haven't just done a marathon, done 6 training sessions and hope for the best. You've turned up every single fucking week for the last 6 months, done at least 3 runs per week, and you've really pushed yourself to your capabilities. And that's something that I think you can be proud of. So for me, it was never about the end goal. It was never about getting the, you know, of course the time was amazing, but it was never about the day. It was about the journey, the process, the person that I became on the way, and the changes that I went through as a person, the growth that I had with the discipline, the application, the fucking injuries, you know, the pain, the discomfort, the lack of sleep, and my body feeling like shit, my head feeling cloudy, feeling dizzy, feeling overwhelmed, still running a business. You know, I have 3 members of staff, like, I still run a business, and all of this build up just goes bang in the 3 days before, and you are just an anxious fucking mess. What I am anyway. So the day before, I'm like dead fucking scatty, shitting myself. I'm a bit snappy because obviously I'm just like, this means so much to me, so much to me. Like, running is my life, and as I said, I committed myself so fucking hard to this goal that nothing was going to stop me. And like I said, I was leaving nothing to chance. So yeah, like interestingly, the night before like a big race, you get like pre-event anxiety, and I didn't sleep. So I had, well, obviously I slept. I had 4 hours sleep the night before. I tried to go to bed early, like try and pre-plan and get everything into this like, amazing fucking routine, but it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Hey team, I hope everybody is good and welcome back to the channel. I really got dressed up for you today. I've got a baggy t-shirt. I have got my marathon outfit on though. It's so suiting, and I've not washed my hair in 4 days, but I'm here for you. So today I am just going to be doing a bit of a review on the marathon. And so today is literally like, so we are we're 9 days post-marathon. And this happened last time I did the marathon. So I did my first marathon in August 2022. And obviously it's now February 2023. And I did this last time. I was like, I really want to do a review straight away because I'm so emotional after, but I'm so emotional that I can't bring myself to do it. It's so funny because after the marathon, you know, it's like this massive, massive high. And then you have a massive low, which we'll talk about. We'll talk about the journey and the process of everything going through it. So today's YouTube video is actually just going to be walking you through my journey for this marathon and just the highlights around, you know, the day before, the carb up, the day, obviously everything that happened on the day, and then like really importantly, what happens after, because you see all of the highs, so everyone's like, wow, how incredible, like, look what you've done. You're like, wow, fucking hell, look what I've done, like, look what I've achieved. And then comes the lows, which no one really talks about. So we'll crack straight on. So let's talk about pre-marathon. So if anyone saw me or like follows me on Instagram, you would have seen that, I've just seen my washing in the background, whatever. You would have seen that I did a carb up for the marathon. So one thing, not to get too technical, but when you are running or taking part in a big endurance event, it's really important that you have enough energy stores. So energy stores are carbohydrates. So carbohydrates, when we consume them, they store themselves within our muscle. So what we can then utilize that for is later date. So what we do in a endurance event is it's called backloading. So we backload the carbohydrates just 3 days before. And what I did was I had 10 grams of carbohydrates per kilo of my body weight for the first day. Then I had 8 grams, then I had 6 grams per kilo of my body weight. So for example, like on the first day, and this video will be coming, I had a 10 grams times 64, so I had 640 grams of carbohydrates in one a day. And I'm only 64 kilos. So the first thing that everybody says, they're like, oh, I'd love to do that, it's so easy. It is not easy, because what I'm not doing is I'm not going out and eating shit food. Like if I went out and ate a bit of cheesecake, it's full of fats, it's not full of carbohydrates. So the goal is that you pretty much eat straight carbohydrates all day. It was pretty clean foods, and I ended up eating 3,300 calories that day, and I hit 618 grams of carbohydrates. So that will be on the 600 gram carbohydrate day, but that was hard. That was really hard. So for the 3 days, I had 3,300 calories. The day after, I had 2,800 calories, and I had 520 grams of carbs. And then the day before, I had 2,200 calories, totaling at 360 grams of carbohydrates. So by this point, I was in an abundance of energy, and I really, really was feeling like lightning speed. I was pretty organized, pretty ready. I'd practiced all my nutrition strategies, like back in my 35K video, if you haven't watched that. And everything was ready, right? I left absolutely nothing to chance in this marathon prep. So again, like if you follow me on Instagram, you would know that I'm not the type of person, like I don't miss my runs. I do everything that I need to do. I listen to every bit of advice from my incredible coach. And I really just take on board every single thing I can. And for me, like when it comes down to achieving a goal, it's really fucking important that you apply yourself 100%. Like that's the way that I live. And if I choose to commit to something, I'm all in, because I wanted to know that if I turned up on the day and I didn't achieve what I'd set out to achieve, I wanted to know that I left nothing to chance. And that's the type of person that I am, is that the way that I live is that I will leave nothing to chance, and I will take every single opportunity I've got, and I will work my ass to the ground to get it. So through the marathon prep from September to February, I only missed 2 runs because I had an injury. But otherwise I did everything. So at this point, like leading up to the marathon, I knew that I'd done everything I possibly could. I put my nutrition strategy in. Like for a woman, it was really fucking hard eating that much food. I felt it was really challenging. I'd done everything I could have done with my running. My recovery was there. I had 2 sports massages that week. So everything was done. And the anxiety hit like 3 days before. My brother was coming over as well, and I was just so fucking anxious. So anxious, because the anticipation for doing this was so big, and I'd worked so hard for this. You know, you've got 2 types of people, right? You can run a marathon, or you can fucking train for a marathon. And I say that to all of my clients. I'm like, it doesn't matter what happens on the day. You're one of those people that actually train for a marathon. You haven't just done a marathon, done 6 training sessions and hope for the best. You've turned up every single fucking week for the last 6 months, done at least 3 runs per week, and you've really pushed yourself to your capabilities. And that's something that I think you can be proud of. So for me, it was never about the end goal. It was never about getting of course the time was amazing, but it was never about the day. It was about the journey, the process, the person that I became on the way, and the changes that I went through as a person, the growth that I had with the discipline, the application, the fucking injuries, the pain, the discomfort, the lack of sleep, my body feeling like shit, my head feeling cloudy, feeling dizzy, feeling overwhelmed, still running a business. I have 3 members of staff. Like, I still run a business, and all of this build up just goes bang in the 3 days before, and you are just an anxious fucking mess. Well, I am anyway. So the day before, I'm like dead fucking scatty, shitting myself. I'm a bit snappy, because obviously I'm just like, this means so much to me, like running is my life. And as I said, I committed myself so fucking hard to this goal, that nothing was gonna stop me. And like I said, I was leaving nothing to chance. So yeah, like interestingly, the night before like a big race, you get like pre-event anxiety, and I didn't sleep. So I had 4 hours sleep the night before. I tried to go to bed early. Like, you try and pre-plan and get everything into this like amazing fucking routine, but it just doesn't work. It doesn't pan out like that. I ended up having 4 hours sleep. We had to get up at 4 a.m. So we had to get up at 4 a.m. to get to the marathon because it was at 6 a.m. and they just changed the location 7 days before. So it was on this like dead flat course, which I've been training for, because obviously I was like, right, one, it's going to be 30 degrees. So one, that's a challenge in itself, running in the heat. But two, like, okay, great, it's flat. At least it's flat. So that's like one counter benefit. They changed the route 7 days before to this route that had like way more inclines. Like, you know, as say, like, for example, you know, in the UK and you're driving down the motorway and you come off to go into a roundabout, it was like inclines like that. And it's okay when you're in a fucking car, but when you're on foot and it's hot and it's 30 degrees, you're like, oh, motherfucking shit. So they changed the route 7 days before, and it was also further away, so it was half an hour away. So I had to get up at 4, it was like a fucking mission impossible, and poor Simon the night before, like, I was crying, I was in bits, I was in bed and I was crying, and he was like, right, we just need to calm down. He was like, you just need to calm down and just try your best. And I was like, yeah, I've just got to settle with this and just accept that I'm not gonna fucking sleep. But this is why, like, going back to in the marathon prep, there were nights that I didn't sleep with anticipation for the big runs, like when I had like 30K, 25K, because I'm excited, nervous, and I still would go and do it because I knew that on the day of the marathon, the likelihood of me not getting enough sleep was really high. So I was already prepared for this. I was prepared and organized for this. And again, if you don't do the prep, you don't fucking learn. And if you only do the prep when it suits you and you feel good, again, you don't learn. So you have to continuously push yourself to do things when the situation is imperfect. So for me, they changed the course and it had inclines. I've not done any training on inclines, nothing. I've done all of my training on flat because Dubai is the fucking flattest place ever, apart from where we did the fucking marathon, which was on a motorway, by the way. That's why it was inclined. They literally shut off a motorway. So weird. So yeah, like you've got to put yourself in imperfect situations because they will come, you know. And on the day I had 4 hours sleep and I was like, right, let's just fucking get up and do this shit. So everything was organized, we were prepared, we were out the door within 10 minutes. We arrived there, like it was a really nice location. It was pretty good. It was at Expo City in Dubai. So the boys obviously just waited, and by this point I was so fucking nervous. I think I'd gone to the toilet like 12 times in the morning, which is good. If you're a runner, you're like, yes, that's so good. Yeah, and then the race began. So I think the good thing about a marathon on the day is that, one, you don't want to do a marathon in your marathon prep, which I didn't, and then two is that it's a new course, so you don't know where you're running, which is actually is a little bit nicer. So obviously we went out, we ran around this expo, did like 12K around like this event, this area. And then we went out onto the motorway, so they literally shut off the motorway, which is so funny, for the run. So there was a couple of thousand people. It wasn't too crazy busy, but I actually started off too slow. So I started off too slow because I was actually almost like trying to preserve energy, and I was trying to be careful, because one of the most renowned issues with marathons is people go too fast. People go out too fast, go out too hard. Once your heart rate is up, it is so hard to get your heart rate back down, especially here. Like when the morning started, it's already 20 degrees. Even without the sun. So it's already, you know, UK, everyone would be like, oh, I'm dying, I can't run in this heat. So here it's like, I've adapted to running in the temperatures a little bit, but naturally for a higher temperature run, your pace will be naturally slow. Like it's harder to run harder in the heat. So throughout the run, obviously I made sure that I had enough nutrition. So for me, it was really important that I had like at least 1,000 calories within the run. One of the biggest issues, again, that a lot of people have is that they undernourish for a run. So obviously I'd done the preload. I'd had some food in the morning as well. So I'd had about 120 grams of carbohydrates in the morning. And then I took 8 gels with me and 400 ml of Gatorade, which is like Lucozade. So I had enough calories with me, and I had a nutrition strategy, which I've practiced in my 35. Again, why it's so important to do the prep in advance. And I was literally banging in the carbohydrates. So I had 25 grams of carbs in the first hour, and then I had a gel on the hour and a half at the 2 hour, and then from the 2 hour point to the 4 hour, I had a gel every 20 minutes. So you can see how much nutrition you need to not hit a wall. If you hit a wall in a marathon, it's because you haven't had enough food. Plain and simple. You are undernourished, and that's why people stop and then they fail to achieve the targets that they want to achieve, is because they're undernourished within the run. So for me at this point, like things were going pretty well. Like I had a really, really good I would say a really good 30K, to be honest with you. Like I said, I've done the work. I've trained a lot at that pace. I've practiced my nutrition, but it was never guaranteed, right? Because one thing that really I found challenging within this was the inclines. So as I said, I've not trained on them, and you know, as soon as you go up, start going in the incline, your heart rate's like bang. So the contenders I then had was by 9 o'clock, I was at about 32K. And on the way back was a 5K incline. So my heart rate was quite elevated at this point. So obviously thinking about that consistently, my heart rate was over 185 beats per minute for an hour. So it's like you're already running on 3 hours of fatigue. We've already run 32 kilometers, it's 28 degrees, and we're now about to go up a 5K incline, which would be really hard for me to run at 540 at without pushing my heart rate up even higher. I had no choice at this point than to absolutely fucking obliterate myself. So at this point, like from 35K, like I just fucking got my head down and I was like, Anna, like this is the moment that you trained for. Your marathon starts at 35. Your marathon starts at 28K if you're undernourished, right? So if you're fully nourished and you're really pushing yourself, the marathon starts at like 34, 35K. My marathon started ages before on the last one because I didn't nourish myself enough. So lesson learned. And I had to fucking fight. I had to fight, and I said to myself, like, I needed a wee, and I was like, if you need to go to the toilet, you will not stop. Like, stopping for me was not a fucking option. Like, there was no way in hell that I was stopping because this goal meant that much to me, and I made a deal with myself. The only ways that you're gonna stop are one, if you pass out, and two, that's it. There was no fucking option. So I made the deal with myself that if you needed to go for a wee, you would go, and you would not stop or quit unless you passed out. And that, like, it sounds extreme, but that's a commitment that I went to, and that's the type of person that I am, is that if I'm in, I'm in. Stopping was not a fucking option. I see so many people stopping, and I was like, come on, give one guy a gel. Well, he had half of my gel, which is bold of me, so I was like, I need that. But he was really struggling, so I was like, come on, like, let's go. I was like, just keep moving. And stopping was not an option. It was something that I trained for. I knew that I'd have to push myself, and I can't tell you, like, if you see the pictures, I'll put them up here. I was in a hole. I was in a really fucking big pain cave. In the pictures, you can see that I'm like this with my mouth, and it's because I physically could not breathe. I was running, and I was like, like this, because I was just trying to, like, I could hear myself, and I couldn't stop myself doing it. And like this hill fucking killed me, and I knew once I got past the hill that I had like 3.9K to go. So I was like, you gotta get past the hill, get past the hill, get past the hill. And everyone was slowing down, and I was like, let's fucking go. I was like, you've got to leave nothing on the table, because I knew that if I didn't get it, and I got to the end of that run and I didn't achieve it, and I hadn't quite emptied the tank, I hadn't given everything that I had, I'd be really fucking disappointed. So at this point, like, my legs are shaking, my body's shaking. After I hit the hill, my teeth went numb, like my mouth was tingling. I had no fucking water left. I was grabbing water from the aid stations. I was literally holding a bottle over my head and pouring it over my head because I was so hot. So by this time, it's about nearly 10 a.m. and the sun is ravenous. It's so hot. And then I was like, right, I saw the Expo City, and I was like, right, when I'm there, I've got like under 3K to go, maybe 2.5. By this point, my head was fucking gone, and I was like, I just need to get to the end. But the worst thing about all of this was I had no fucking idea if I was gonna achieve the goal, because I was running pretty much to the pace. The hills caught me by surprise, so I was just making it on the hill. Sometimes I wasn't running fast enough. So sometimes up the hills, I was doing like 2K too slow, but I could not go any faster. So then the downhill, I was like, fucking go. So yeah, by this point, I had no idea if I was going to achieve it. I still had no idea, so I couldn't let up on the effort. So I had to try and put every bit of effort in. And I knew that even when I hit the 40K mark and it said that I was on for a 3:58 marathon, I was like, I've still got 2K to go. And I literally was dragging my arse. I can't even express you. I've never put myself in a position like that. By this point, my heart rate was 191 beats per minute, and I was dying. So we're just about to go into the last couple of K, my fucking headphones die. They're like, and I was like, I was like, it's me and you now, girl. I was like thinking about what an angry letter I could write to Apple for letting me down at this moment in time, this moment of need. But at this point, I didn't even know what I was listening to, right? I couldn't even get my phone out. I couldn't move. I literally couldn't move. I couldn't think about doing anything else other than putting one foot in front of the other. And by this point, like, this guy was next to me that we'd been running together for like 30K. And I looked at him and he looked at me and we just had this look together of like, holy fuck, like where are we and what are we doing right now? So the last couple of K were unbelievably hard, felt like a marathon in themselves, no headphones, breathing like a fucking dying cat. So yeah, obviously and that was it. Like, I literally made it across the finish line with like, well, the official marathon time was like, on their one was like 3 hours, 58 minutes and 20 seconds or something like that. So Simon was here and my brother were like this, like watching it, because I had no idea if I was gonna do it or not until I got to the last minute. So no one had any idea. So they were all on the edge of their seats as well. My good friend Joe came, my brother and Simon were there. Yeah, and then after, like, I literally fell over the finish line, and then there was a barrier, and there was what's he called, a medic, and I saw him, and I knew that I was in trouble, because I was like, my mouth was numb, my vision was going, I couldn't, and I was like, like this, because my heart rate was like 190 beats per minute, and I literally fell over. And he was like, called his mate over, he was like, we've got one here. And he was like, show me your badge, because he was trying to check if I'd done a marathon or a 10K, because he's probably gonna tell me to fucking man up if it was a 10K. And he was like, right, come on, sit on the floor. And I was like, I can't sit on the floor. And my legs were like this. My body just started going, and he looked at me and he was like, come on, look at me. He's like, put your head up. He's like, how'd you feel? And I was like, I've fucking done it. I was like, I've done it. I was like, I hit it. He was like, what? I was like, sub 4. And he was like, well done. And literally, he was like, are you okay? And I was like, my mouth is numb. I was like, I'm tingling. And he was like, I know it's hard. He was like, but move. He was like, so I had to carry on walking. And then they're the photos that you see of me and Simon. And I'm like, because I just finished and I did it. Like, and that, I was so fucked, but I smiled because I was like, I've done it. Like, and it makes me so happy now. Like, when I look at the photos, like, yeah, it just makes me so happy that I did it. Like, it was just such an amazing feeling, and it was so nice, like, having them there. And like, the first thing I heard is like, Simon and my brother were like, I'm so proud of you. And like, that moment just like, it just touches your soul. Like, Simon supported me for like the whole way of this marathon. Like, it's not easy training for a marathon. It's not easy running a business, training for a marathon. Simon's training for an Ironman himself, you know, and he's been so supportive for me like the whole way through it. And it was so good. Like, if I look at the photos now, I'm like, they're just amazing. Like, my brother got these photos for me and they're absolutely incredible. But yeah, it was amazing. It was absolutely incredible, and I'm so proud of myself for doing it. I'm so proud of myself for putting the work in and putting myself in a position where I did succeed. And of course I would have been upset if I didn't get it. Of course I would, because I've done the work. I've done so much work, but success is never guaranteed, and the outcomes that we want are never guaranteed, but what we can guarantee is the work that we put in. And that's what I'm proud of. That's the thing that I'm most proud of, is that I put the work in and I got the result. And I know that if I had missed the bar on a couple of times, then maybe I wouldn't have got the result. I wouldn't have got the outcome. You know, if I didn't do the carb up, maybe I wouldn't have had enough energy to do it. So everything fell in line at the right moment. Everything was meant to be, which was great. So yeah, obviously the recovery after was challenging. I couldn't walk for a couple of days. Literally, I was like, whoa, like this, my legs, you feel spaced out, you feel exhausted, you feel depleted. But that's part of it. So it takes a couple of weeks to recover. Like, mentally it's challenging as well, because obviously you have a massive high and then you have a quite big low, because you're like, what's my purpose in life? So my advice to you is, if you are doing a marathon, just make sure that you've got structure, program and things to look forward to out of it. It's like almost like getting married, right? But just make sure you've got a plan. Like, I know that I'm going back into my weight training, gonna get fast, I've got events coming up. So it's just about having like the pre-organisation for things that you want to do after. But no, it makes me smile because I'm so proud of myself. Like, and it feels so nice that it's done, because it was hard. It was really fucking hard. The training was hard. The commitment was hard. It was hard on my body, my mind. But the amount of growth I've had out of it is unbelievable. And I'm like, I'm just getting started now. So I've got some amazing things coming up this year. Me and Simon are going to do something that I don't even know if we'll make it through. Thinking that we're going to do an ultra as well. And yeah, so many great things to come.